One man caused the destruction of one of the biggest football clubs in the world in just 5 years. Josep Maria Bartomeu was the reason for the fall of FC Barcelona after leaving it drowning in debts amounting to €1.35 billion following a series of expensive and disappointing deals, in addition to the loss of major stars like Lionel Messi, which quickly pushed the club toward hell. Everything started with Sandro Rosell, the man who planted the seed that later grew and led to the fall of Barcelona. But before that, Joan Laporta was the president of the club from 2003 until 2010, a period during which Barcelona experienced great prosperity thanks to its strong football identity, which focused on youth development and a long-term approach. The real problems began in 2010 when Sandro Rosell took over the presidency of the club, as he changed Barcelona's philosophy regarding success. Instead of focusing on winning matches and developing players, he started focusing on making profits. For more than 100 years, Barcelona kept its shirt clean from advertisements or sponsorships, and in 2006, the UNICEF logo was added to the shirt, but the club did not receive money for that. Instead, it paid €1.5 million annually to support children around the world, in a gesture that showed Barcelona cared about values before money. However, Rosell turned these principles upside down and signed a sponsorship deal with Qatar Foundation for €30 million per year. He also moved the UNICEF logo to the back of the shirt. In this way, Barcelona gave up a part of its traditions in exchange for quick money. The Neymar deal was not the only problem. Rosell ignored the La Masia Academy during Guardiola's era, which had produced legends like Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, and Pedro. But Rosell preferred signing ready-made stars instead of investing in young players. And although the team continued to achieve victories on the field, things behind the scenes were collapsing. Excessive spending, wrong decisions, and a loss of identity. By 2014, when Rosell resigned, the damage had already been done, and he left behind problems that only deepened under Bartomeu. This is where the disaster began. Josep Maria Bartomeu, the man who turned Barcelona's problems into a full-blown catastrophe. When he took over the presidency after Rosell's resignation, the fans were hoping for change, but they got something even worse. Bartomeu was not a new person in the club. He had worked closely with Rosell and learned all the wrong lessons from him. At first, everything seemed fine. In 2015, Barcelona won everything and had the strongest attacking line of its generation: Messi, Suarez, and Neymar, the famous MSN trio that struck fear into the hearts of opponents. The fans were celebrating, and Bartomeu seemed like a genius. But behind the spotlight, he was making decisions that would lead to the destruction of the club. He spent money without a plan, gave out outrageous salaries, and ignored the warnings. And every decision made brought the club one step closer to collapse. In the summer of 2017, the real collapse began. Neymar decided to leave Barcelona because he was tired of living in Messi's shadow. Paris Saint-Germain paid €222 million in the most expensive deal in football history, but instead of turning this huge amount into an opportunity, Barcelona acted with panic and randomness, starting a series of the worst decisions in the club's history. The first was signing Ousmane Dembélé for €105 million, plus €40 million in add-ons. Dembélé was only 20 years old and had played just one season with Borussia Dortmund. Upon his arrival, he suffered a serious injury and was out for several months. Then his injuries kept repeating, and he never showed any kind of stability. Then in 2018, Barcelona signed Philippe Coutinho for €120 million, plus €40 million in add-ons, making it the most expensive deal in the club's history. But he failed to adapt at Barcelona, so the deal ended in failure. And in 2019, the club signed Antoine Griezmann for €120 million amid wide controversy, as Atletico Madrid stated that Barcelona negotiated with him while his release clause was still €200 million. Griezmann did not fit in with the team and returned to Atletico after 2 seasons for only €20 million. As for Coutinho, he moved to Aston Villa for €20 million, and Dembélé left for Paris Saint-Germain for €50 million. All of these deals were a waste of money, and all the blame falls on Bartomeu. Between 2014 and 2020, Bartomeu spent more than €1 billion on signings that did not deliver. But the problem was not only with the transfers, but also with the salaries, which rose to more than €600 million per year, the highest figure in football history. And despite all this enormous spending, the team's performance on the field was disappointing, and it failed to compete in Europe. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, Barcelona had plans to generate €1.59 billion, but the pandemic turned everything upside down, and it led to losses amounting to €97 million, along with a revenue decrease of €203 million. However, instead of stopping to review the accounts, the management continued its expensive signings. On October 27, 2020, Bartomeu and his board resigned, but the damage had already been done. Laporta later revealed that the club's debt had reached €1.35 billion, which was the main reason behind the loss of Lionel Messi, as the club was unable to register his contract under the salary cap imposed by La Liga, despite his agreement to take a pay cut. In the summer of 2021, Messi left for Paris Saint-Germain, and tears fell during the farewell press conference. Joan Laporta took over the responsibility and began by cutting salaries and selling some players like Griezmann and Pjanic. He also made a deal with an investment company to sell 10% of the broadcasting rights for €207 million. He brought in players like Memphis Depay, Sergio Aguero, Eric Garcia, and Ferran Torres, and also refocused on the La Masia Academy, investing in young talents like Gavi and Balde. In 2022, Barcelona signed a massive sponsorship deal with the company Spotify, making it the club's main sponsor, and the stadium's name was changed to Spotify Camp Nou. Laporta's plan was not perfect, but it succeeded in achieving a certain level of stability, and in just 2 years, the team managed to win the La Liga title. However, the heavy debts still remain a burden, and the financial levers that were used may cause future problems. And to this day, the team shows noticeable improvement under the leadership of Hansi Flick, and the future looks promising for restoring the club's glory and returning to the stage of titles and dominance.